Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is pull these cam covers off. This engine is missing a lot of parts just from being pulled out and not being put back together right with everything. Doesn't have timing covers on it. Plug covers aren't on it, wires aren't in. Manifold is pretty much already taken off, but you'll see the reverse of how all that goes on as I'll put everything back to stock. Normally I would use an air socket for this, but then you wouldn't be able to hear anything. If you don't have a good memory or you're not good with these engines, you're probably best off taking a picture of everything before you start. And then noting what things come off of where. So you're not guessing when you're putting it back together. It'll take you maybe an extra hour or 2 hours to do it when you're disassembling everything, but it'll make a world of difference when you're putting it all back together. These are 10mm if you're wondering. Pretty much every bolt on this engine is either 10, 12, or 14. And then you got the 17s for the engine mount. Maybe something bigger for the exhaust, I don't really remember. I'm rebuilding this engine because the valves are ticking. They had the water pump seized and the timing belt snapped, and instead of pulling the head, they just had a new timing belt put on. So now it starts up, but no compression, and 5, 3, and 6, I believe. Maybe 5, 3, 1. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But yeah, if you ever snap your timing belt, definitely do a compression test. And if you can't do a compression test, just pull the head and check all the valves, because the timing belt is already off of it. So it'll be a lot easier. If your timing belt snapped, the best way to do a compression test is actually to get a compression tester, and you can hook it up to an air compressor and put the tester in the cylinder spark plug well. Pressurize it with the cams down. The cams in the right position for the valves to be closed. And if you hear air leaking out, you know right off the bat that you have valves that aren't seating. The other thing that you could do is once you get your intake manifold off, like this one is, you can put oil. I would suggest mystery oil, so it'll clean it out while you're doing it, but really you could put just regular scum oil in and clean it out. But put oil in there, and if it stays up in the up in the holes for the intake manifold, you know that your valves are seating. It's kind of dark out and the light bulb in this garage isn't the best, so I hope you guys can kind of see what's going on right here. If you're not familiar with engines, these are your two camshafts. They sit on top of your valves, well, on top of your springs, and they move the valves. Got a lot of stuff zip tied up on this engine. I'm not really sure what's going on. Just go around, get all your hoses out of the way. Make sure you mark them if you don't know where they go. Now since our fuel rail is already off and all the injectors are out, I'm going to pull this intake manifold, lower intake manifold. It's held in by 12mm nuts. I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's got 8 of them holding it in. Just now looking at this timing belt and it's got like no tension on it, so I'm not sure who did their timing belt on this, but didn't do a very good job. It looks like what they did is they just tried to tension it with the pulley on the front of the engine, and they didn't retension the hydraulic tensioner. So, go through and fix that. Could be the timing belt stretched, but I really doubt that with a brand new timing belt, if they did in fact replace it. Gotta be really careful when you bring these engines to shops because they don't know how to do some of the stuff. And since it's not their car, they're not too worried about the fact that they don't know how to do some of the stuff. So, make sure you bring it to a reputable place that, you know, has worked on Mitsubishis or is willing to do the research to find out how to work on Mitsubishis. They put a lot of little gotchas in this engine. I'm not particularly happy with how these camshafts look. There's a lot of build up on them. Depending on the kind of feedback I get, I might not even rebuild these heads. I might just go get ones that have been rebuilt already, so I don't have to go through lapping the valves. now reseating everything, it'll cut my build time down drastically, so we'll see. If you guys want to see it, I'll do it, but if not, I'll save the time, and I'll just go get some heads that have already been done. So now you have your lower intake manifold off, and these gaskets are just falling apart. So whenever you're rebuilding an engine, you should always replace all the gaskets, but sometimes you can get away with, reusing stuff if you're just trying to go for something really cheap. I don't suggest it because really it's your engine and you're going to end up with leaks and stuff. But if you're in a bind, I would never reuse something that looks like this, but if your gasket looks good and you really don't have the money to spend on it, you can get away with doing it. Timing belt is actually so loose that I think I might just pull it right off because I'm going to be retiming this whole engine anyway. So I'm not even going to set it. Normally before you pull your heads, you should try to set them to top dead center just to make things easier for you, but it's not really a big deal if you don't. You're just going to have to time it yourself, which isn't particularly hard. I know a lot of people say it's tough and that you shouldn't try it if you don't know what you're doing, but I've taken a couple of these apart and just fumbled through setting the time, and I was able to do it alright, so just be prepared to rip it back down if you mess the timing up, because it either won't start or it'll start and run like crap. So now everybody says you should always pull the engine out if you're doing a head gasket on these or any type of valve work. I don't think that's necessarily true. You can get away with doing some of the work with it on the car. I found that it wasn't really necessary to do it. You don't really have to pull the front head off. Should be a 14 right here. I think somebody might put the wrong bolt in it because there were two different sizes. That's alright. We'll get it off anyway. There's my alternator bracket off. We still have this big engine bracket on there. This bushing is completely shot. This engine mount, I don't know if this is in camera. No, it's not. This engine mount is bad. It's all torn up. So, that'll be replaced. I want to say these are going to be either 17s, maybe 18s. So. 17. Yeah, it's 17. Now, if these are on the car, there's a special order you're supposed to do them in, I think. I usually take the weight off the engine. But you don't even really need to do this to pull the head. If you're going to reuse your timing belt. They're on there pretty tight, so give them some elbow grease. If they're really not budging, hit them with some PB Blaster because you don't want to split these studs. Or you'll be at the junkyard looking for a new mount. Just drop the bolt in there. Some wire cutters. Cut this off real quick. That doesn't need to come off, but mine's gonna have to be replaced anyway, so I just pulled it. Really, I'm just completely disassembling this engine so that I can check every single part so that I know that when it goes back in, everything's good. You know? Don't want to have to pull this engine again. Get it done right the first time and you'll thank yourself. You'll be kicking yourself later if you decide not to change something or if you overlook something. There's one hiding under here. This looks like it's got a brand new water pump. Yeah. They replaced the water pump on it. So after I get both heads off, I'm going to pull the oil pan and just inspect my bearings and everything. I think I'm going to end up replacing everything because I decided I'm going to do a full rebuild on this. You don't really have to. I mean, if you're just trying to get it running, you'd be okay. The next thing I'm going to do is unbolt this water pump rather. And after that, I'm going to pull this head with everything else still on it, just in the interest of time and getting this done so you guys can see how these valves look. So I'm sure they'll be visibly bent. The water pump connects to both heads. This is a 12, I think. Let's see. Yeah, it's 12. the engine. It's just distribution over here. I'm not sure what Mitsubishi calls it. I'm gonna pull it all the way off though. Really clear things up over here. I'm gonna probably pressure wash and steam clean all these parts. Maybe even send them out to get professionally clean and then paint them so that it goes back in looking nice. You don't have to do that, but if you're gonna put all this work into an engine, it might as well look as nice as it sounds. Almost got this off. Bolts are kind of in a stubborn place. That's everything. We should just pull it out now. Yeah. Oh. Get some line still connected on it. Off for the most part, though. Get this nice coolant tube. And get that from the engine. Pull it out. Show it to you when I actually get it out. Can't stress how important it is for you to bag and label parts if you're not sure how it goes back together. This one, it's already been bushed. I'm just probably going to get a whole new nut and bolt set for it because there's just so much missing. Alright, this is the tube that runs between your fuel or water pump and this distributor right here. So put that in the same place. Now I'm actually gonna pull the head off, and I think that's where we're gonna stop for this video. No, I'm looking for my star head that I used to get the head bolts off. It's a socket wrench. completely tearing it down. Down a block, piston, rods, everything. There's a loosening order for these.
What did you put in? Is it the same exact engine? Or?
Yeah, that other engine is the same engine. I ended up buying a junkyard engine for this car that this came out of, just because of how terrible this one was. And that one I'm not liking it either, so I decided I'm going to rebuild this. I really don't think you should ever buy a rebuilt engine unless it's A, from a very, very reliable source, or B, there's a full build log with pictures and proof that you're getting the engine they rebuilt. Because it's very easy to say an engine was rebuilt and could just be cleaned up on the outside and a ticking time bomb on the inside. You just want to be careful. Price seems too good to be true. It probably is. It takes a lot of time and money to rebuild these engines. Just loosen the head up. Then you should be able to pull these bolts right out. They have washers on them, so make sure you get the washer. Just so it doesn't end up stuck anywhere. You don't want to reuse these. You really don't want to reuse these, because if these go back in and they snap off in your block, you're in for a world of hurt. Could spend as much time as you do on the whole rebuild trying to re-drill it, re-thread it, getting everything right with it again. So, do yourself a favor. If you think you're going to be pulling the head off often, pick up some ARP studs. I'm sure they have them for this. They got to. Because these are all stretch bolts, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but when in doubt, replace. I mean, look at it this way. You're not going to do any harm by putting new bolts in. It can be kind of pricey though. I'll look it up and I'll update it in the description whether or not these are stretch bolts or not. There's 8 of them on each head though, so hopefully they're not $10 a bolt, but they very well could be. I And a Mini Cooper, it was $14 a bolt. You can generally save some money if you opt for head studs instead. Yep. I just had one of these washers fall through the oil well, so you definitely want to be careful for that. Make sure you get it out. Just remember that it's in there. I'm not sure if these are magnetic. They probably are, so you can just grab a little magnet and get them out. But it's so messy over here right now. I don't know where my magnet is. I'll just flip the head over when it gets out. This can be difficult if you've got gloves on. I usually don't like working in gloves, but I go to work with my fingers all dirty and everybody's looking at me, and it's just like, alright, I'll wear gloves. Got two left in there. I'm gonna see if I can just pull this head off because they're kind of stuck. Yeah, came off nice and easy. So you want to be careful with this because you do have your valves and everything on the other side. If any of them are down, you could bend them even worse. You don't want to do that. So I'm just gonna tip this over really quick. Hopefully get all my bolts out that I have. I have two washers left in there. Yeah, these valves don't look good at all. This cylinder's wet. It's got oil and gas in it. Looks like the head gasket was leaking a little bit. I don't know. I don't like that. It's all going to be replaced anyway, though. So we're going to pull this off. Yeah. Yeah, see, we had a definite leak going on. And it looks like we have a completely clogged passageway, I think. Checking that out soon. See what's going on there. Could just be a pin. I don't like that though. Yeah, probably just a pin. Alright, so that's one head off. Oh yeah, you can see in these valves, or in these pistons, where the valve is actually collided with the piston. It's not pretty. And it took a nice little chunk out of the piston. This car will probably get new pistons, rods, and everything, because it doesn't look too good. Alright, I think that's where we're going to stop for tonight. It's already a half hour into it.